Greetings, Mind Crafters, and welcome to another exciting Minecraft episode on this glorious day. Here it's in October as I am recording this. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and I am so super stoked. I know I had a little bit of a gap there, just family things going on. Our daughter was baptized. We went down to West Palm Beach to see our daughter and her partner Diego and our precious baby Isabel get baptized, and so I've just been kind of in a happy spin. So now I'm back, and I was so inspired this morning reading an article by Ginny. What is Ginny's last name? I wrote it down here someplace. Ginny from there it is. There it is. Ginny Graves, writer for Real Simple. From I was back in July 21, but I stumbled on this article again, and it's amazing how, at least for me, it just seems like the universe, God, source, however you want to say. For me, it's God. Just things just land in my lap when it's what I need to hear sometimes. It's just how it works. And as Wayne Dyer says frequently, I love him. I'm a huge fan of Wayne Dyer. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. That's sort of how it goes. And so, in fact, that's definitely how it goes. And so today I wanted to talk about a healthier kind of happy. You hear the phrase out there, toxic positivity, and I just think it's so important to really discuss that, because I was just discussing that with my Minecraft crafters a couple weeks ago, because healthy positivity and positivity is, on its own is healthy, is as healthy as it gets. Being an optimist, being healthy, being aware of your feelings and labeling them and such. I think, for me, what toxic positivity means, to me, it sounds like a bit of an oxymoron, to be honest with you. But to sort of disregard negative emotion, on this Minecraft crusade of learning how to rewire the brain, learning how to shift into more positive thinking modes, and the state of gratitude, all this stuff. This is all healthy and good and positive, and absolutely the way to live, your very best life. And that being said, no one ever said not to acknowledge negative emotion, because to feel is to heal. And it's very important too, because especially in this fast paced, media saturated society where we're all flying around like gerbils on crack, I think a lot of times people have not almost, some people have lost, sort of touch with the ability to label their emotions. They walk around feeling, but they don't know what they're feeling. It might just be negative. They don't know if they're pissed or envious or jealous, and those two things are not the same. Or they regret something. Maybe they're grieving something, not necessarily somebody who passed on. We can grieve anything, the loss of anything, a relationship or whatever. And I think we've gotten so used to being human doings rather than human beings, that I think many of us have just, very much so, lost touch with how to label our emotions. So, how are we supposed to feel them if we don't know what we're feeling? And so, way back when, I wrote a newsletter, and I sometimes I take pieces of these later. I don't completely cheat and copy everything, because also year to year things change. Things change. However, I was adding this into parts of this into the part of this one into the uh, Minecraft University newsletter, and I because I just like it, and I had found this quote when I first wrote this up a couple years ago. It was from Gretchen Rubin, who says negative emotions like loneliness, envy, and guilt have an important role to play in a happy life. They're big, flashing signs that something needs to change. Now, I can't imagine that there's a listener out there who hasn't experienced this. And I know I've experienced it lately, actually. Lately, with different things changing, and I think this also brings us to the place of contrast. And if we're thinking of relationships changing, doesn't mean that they're over necessarily, and it might mean that they're over, though they can change. And workplace roles can change. Doesn't mean you're losing a job. Well, it can be that. It can be that you're being pointed in an entirely new direction, and you can be pointed towards a passion project. And what happens is when we are sort of presented with contrast, we're presented with contrast. We often jump to, oh God, how is this happening to me? How is this happening to me? Maybe things at work are shifting, new boss you don't like, maybe they're a control freak or who knows. How come this is happening to me? Shift in dynamics. Maybe they're making cuts and you're about ready to lose your job. And how is this happening to me? Or it's a relationship or it's a move or whatever. And instead of that, to really sort of gain some clarity that this is not how it works. Life does not happen to us. Life happens for us, which is can be a very tough sell when we're in it. Though when we look back, you can use the workplace, or the relationship, or one, or the move, or whatever, whatever, whatever. When there was contrast and it didn't feel good, and it presented negative emotion, maybe there was fear there, maybe there was sadness there, maybe there was regret or guilt or remorse or whatever was there. When we look back, the dots the dots all connected, and we wouldn't be here in this place, unless that hard thing happened. So to reel it back in, as far as a healthier way to be happy, Ginny talks about, she says, healthy positivity doesn't mean you should never be sad or have a bad day. It means you approach everyday challenges in a more productive way. And I've had this chat with my Minecrafters for, well, now it's been, I don't know, it's over a decade anyway. I lose track of all this stuff because I absolutely love, 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 love teaching, and I love, love, love the young adult niche. That is definitely my place in life. It's my purpose on this earth. One of my big ones is to educate young adults. I absolutely love them. So we've had to talk about this, that it doesn't, taking Minecraft, doesn't mean that we're healthy 100% of the time. No, of course not, because first, to begin with, that isn't possible. And how would we know if we're happy if we've never been sad? It sounds so cliche, but it's true. People say, "How would you're not going to appreciate the sun if it has never rained?" Very true. And though it sounds cheesy and kind of dumb, it's absolutely the truth. And I'm thinking of being in northern Vermont, which people say it a lot because when there's a sunny day, the entire state of Vermont is outside if they can be. Even if you're working, you try to wiggle, half an hour for lunch, or you try to take the long way home from, if you're walking to work, you take the long way, or you run an errand at work and go get somebody something at the copier and it takes you 15 minutes longer because you dipped out and caught some sunshine. I mean, that is absolutely true here in Vermont because people really, 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 really appreciate the sunshine. In fact, I feel like I heard it on the radio. Of course, you got to check your sources with that. That Burlington was third at the most, but second to Seattle. With is one of the cloudiest, or the cloudiest city in the United States, next to Seattle, or third. That was the thing. That cheesy cliche is actually really true. And I know I've had the good fortune to go to Ireland couple of times. I remember, of course, I stepped off the plane. I felt my genetics just like, coming through the earth and sinking into my DNA with a last name like Quinn. But anyway, the first time I went, no, yes, first time I went, we went in October and it was just horizontal rain. What you would think of horizontal rain, and just the house could have lifted up like the Wizard of Oz. It was just, that was very regular. We were only there for a week, and the whole trip was lovely. And the sun came out for part of one day, and we were walking. We stayed in this small village, this small village that we got to know everybody in it very quickly, and the one pub where we hung out. But anyway, when the sun came out, we didn't know, that was my first time there, and I said to this woman at this candy shop, I think it was a fudge shop to be more specific, and I said, "So wow, it's gorgeous out. How often, does this not happen often?" I forget how I phrased it, and she says, "Oh dear," she says. She says when the sun comes out, she says, "Why, the whole country comes out." And she was had this lovely Irish accent, so same kind of thing. So when we relate it to the positivity thing, if we didn't have the clouds, the horizontal rain, the sadness, the regret, the grief, the disappointment, fill all those things in, we're not going to truly know what it's like to feel happy. And if we amp that up even farther to truly experience joy and awe, picture of, brand new baby being born, or the Grand Canyon, or being on the top of Pikes Peak out in Colorado, or, take that to any level you want to, because there's happiness. And then there's when our senses are actually absolutely saturated and intoxicated with whatever it is we're looking at and listening to and smelling and all that good stuff. And we cannot experience any of that if we haven't had some contrast. And so Ginny continues to say, when it comes to emotion, happiness rocks. She talks about how it makes us feel like we want to burst into, you know, singing and or doing really good things for people. That's also true. When we're feeling happy, happiness just is contagious, right? Kind of like a cold in the reverse. It just spreads everywhere and it's great. And you just, laughter spreads, and laughter obviously comes from happiness. It reduces stress. Boosts the immune system, boosts your heart health, and happiness, makes us live longer. There's no question about that. Happier people also do better in the job interviews, which is why they get the best jobs, why they also keep the jobs. We tend to get sick less, heal faster, and live longer, as I think we said that one. With healthy relationships and happier people are liked better. That's just the fact, Jack. And then she says the other positive emotions like awe and love and gratitude, just these emotions just kind of infiltrate our bodies, and they lead us to this just huge uplifting sensation that leads to inner peace and this feeling of, being at one with the world and the universe. And she says, close your eyes and think of a room full of puppies of the vastness of the Grand Canyon. And that's all true. And it's amazing how we can steer our minds towards happy feelings with happy thoughts. Because, of course, thoughts come first and feelings second, and actions or behavior last. So we cannot feel happy without thinking happy thoughts first. People don't always fully get that, but think about it. If I say this to my students constantly, if we were to move Jonathan's brilliant young adult mind with kindness and anesthesia and put it in a fishbowl of formaldehyde up on the shelf, what is Jonathan feeling? Well, the answer is nothing, because there's no brain there. So even if it's automatic thoughts that we're not necessarily conscious of, it all still starts with thoughts. So the flip side of that is it's also neurologically impossible to feel anxious without first thinking anxious thoughts. And so we flip the script on that, which is what Ginny and I are both talking about. Shifting into a more optimistic lifestyle, a positive lifestyle, doesn't mean to not feel negative emotions. It means to feel is to heal, to feel, to process, and then to shift out of it. Feel it enough, label it, feel it, get it till you've got it, close the chapter, and then find higher ground and shift to some more positive thinking. Choose different thoughts, and then you will land back, kind of in your highest vibe, positive self. That's how it works. And I have to say, Ginny has a point here. My students have talked about this, about, happiness pressure, if there can be such a thing. And so Ginny makes a comment about happiness culture when she says, still, acknowledging negative emotions can be surprisingly hard in our happiness culture, especially now when more and more people are encouraging people to stay positive. Experts call this toxic positivity. It crops up in Instagram and Facebook comments with comments like, look on the bright side and everything happens for a reason. This overly rose-colored approach can be summed up in three words: good vibes only. And interject there for a second, because Brene Brown also has commented on this, that she makes silver lining of a verb, and it's awesome. When people silver lining something, when their heart's aching or breaking over something, and then it's a difference actually between sympathy and empathy. That's where I got this from. And she talks about coming from a higher place to kind of reaching down to somebody versus sitting right next to them and just listening. And she talks about when somebody begins a sentence with at least, at least, oh you lost your arm, well at least you have another one. This is not good. This is a place that's not empathetic. It's not healthy positivity. It's not any of that. It's just obnoxious, right? And so I like when she says when people try to silver lining it as a verb with the words at least. We're not talking about that. Somebody has some heartache they need to feel and heal, and we wouldn't say at least, if they whatever their loss is, at least well blah 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 blah, because I don't think anybody wants to hear that. They just want to be listened to, have somebody, get very close to them. I mean, like emotionally speaking, hear, without judgment, just unconditionally without judgment, and just be present and really try our best to hear them and feel what they're feeling to the best of our ability is what we're talking about. So Jenny says focusing on the positive is a sensible instinct because positive emotions keep us healthy. Um, says Preston. They quoted somebody, I think, back in the article. Says Preston, but it's not truly optimal or even possible to be positive all the time. When researcher analyzed daily reports they collected a big sample, like 11,000 something people over 35 days. They found that positive emotions were 2.5 times as frequent as negative ones, but there were always a quirky mix, a strong helping of joy, for instance, with a generous side of anxiety, a splash of guilt or gratitude, a dollop of anger. And this person, Preston, said that's normal. That's what healthy looks like. And she says, what's more, insisting on positivity at all costs can cost you. When people ignore challenging emotions, they often drink, eat, or shop too much, says Margaret Side, MD, and she's out of a private practice in New York City. And that is absolutely true. I think we know that we've got, and obviously addiction is a way bigger conversation than the one we're having, though we can just sort of touch on this, that it is true that people self-medicate, which doesn't necessarily mean that they're addicted to substances or addicted to shopping or whatever, and that can and does take on a life of its own at times. But we all know what stress eating is, even if somebody's not addicted. They just came home from a rough day at work, and rather than make something healthy, what's quicker and easier is the cold pasta from 2 days ago, and we do that, and part of that is because that's just habitual. Part of that is the impulse. Part of that is the convenience, and part of that is that carbohydrates do chemically have a moment when they reduce stress. That is also true. So we do things like stress eat to self medicate rather than slowing it down, feeling, processing, and calling a friend and shifting into a higher place. I think we've all had that experience. I can't imagine that we have not. So, all right, so this is it. A healthier way to be happy means to look at the big picture, to feel is to heal, label emotions, process emotions, and then close the chapter. Choose new thoughts. When you choose happier, more positive thoughts, you will then feel happier, more positive. That is the neurological fact. And sometimes, of course, there are times when we need to reach out for help with this. There's no question. Somebody to really, listen to us and help us kind of shift out of that not so good place and into a better place. So there it is. It doesn't mean to ignore negative emotions. It means to process and then shift out of them once we're feeling good about processing and had closure and all that sort of thing. Okay, that's awesome. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the beautiful, a lot of nice foliage now, beautiful northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.